What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Beyond the Junkyard podcast. It's Thursday night live stream edition. As you can tell, it is a solo episode this week. Cody had some form of personal matter that he had to attend to. So it's just me tonight. I announced that this was a possibility in the Discord chat, but I appreciate anybody that's coming in. As you're coming in, I got a couple things I need for you. Hit that like button, hit comment, join the chat, share this video to all of your wrestling fans and friends and all of that good stuff, and then subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell. If you're listening to this after the fact on the audio version of the podcast, please make sure to give us a 5-star review and subscribe on your platform and help support, get the word out there for us. I had to change around a little bit of what we were planning on talking about to begin the show, since obviously Cody is not here tonight. So we're going to really jump right in to the content tonight. We usually call this segment the mid-card meltdown, but since I'm solo, I'm going to run a segment that I do on my Saturday shows in its place. So big shout out to all of our partners, StubHub, WWE Shop, RSS.com, and W Energy for partnering with us. All those links are in the description. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, here is the monologue. All right, and so today's monologue segment, the beginning of the show, I'm going to start off by saying I think it's about time people start to understand that I understand the dynamic of what WWE is doing at a level outside of the fans of WWE. See, what I'm referring to is WWE announced earlier in the summer that they have merged with AAA. They're working this partnership with TNA. And so the fans, obviously they're in this circle. They only get one piece of the story. And that piece of the story that they have is that WWE is using AAA, they're using TNA as a way to expand the reach into the American market in the context of AAA, put more eyes on the product, and ultimately, make these companies a platform to where you can have talent come in through AAA or come in through TNA and then prove themselves in a TV market, get into NXT, get into the main roster. It's kind of a pipeline. Like, that's the story that they're telling us, right? Is that AAA and TNA are some form of pipeline that leads to the WWE. But let's take off the rose-tinted glasses for a moment, and let's take a look at reality. Let's take a look at reality for a moment. The exact opposite in most cases is what is actually happening. WWE, except on a few rare occasions, is not bringing the majority of AAA talent to a mainstream level. They're not bringing the majority of TNA and putting more eyes on the product. What instead they're doing is they're taking their WWE talent and bringing them to AAA, bringing them to TNA, and basically telling TNA, telling AAA, we are going to transform your company's structure to be WWE. So a story came out not too long ago that was saying that AAA trainers and such are planning on going to the Performance Center so they can learn how they train their new people to the American style, so that AAA can become the Americanized version of luchador wrestling. And to me, while it is a good business decision in terms of AAA may have the backing of the giant now, right? But long term, how sustainable is it for AAA? How many people are actually going to pay attention to AAA when it's WWE wrestlers on the TV? See, my issue is you're not putting new eyes to new wrestlers. You're putting new eyes on a product with the same wrestlers that they could watch on Monday, Wednesday, or Friday. Sorry, Monday, Tuesday, or Friday. And you're kicking out the wrestlers that usually are on these shows, that usually have these platforms. And I know the response is going to be, but Mercedes Moné has all these championships with other promotions, but MJF is the CMLL champion. But there's storyline, there's progression, there's, like MJF has the CMLL World Championship right now. But it's leading to a bigger story. Like, I don't know how much common sense you need to see that at some point in time, we're getting title versus mask, MJF versus Mystico for the CMLL title. And it's going to be a complete wonderful story of Mystico's perseverance. Or it could be the story of Mystico losing and having to unmask himself. But regardless of what the outcome is, there is a process, and at the end of the day, that match has more prestige because of the partnership behind it. Because CMLL is allowed to work their style and partner with AEW. Whereas WWE is telling AAA, you have to work our style. You have to like our booking. You have to get our approval on how our talent is to be ran on your shows. And maybe AAA is okay with that. But you're getting the short end of the stick. You're losing your ability to be your own company at that point. And nothing else tells the story, because remember when this deal happened, I made a big deal of it. I thought this was the death of some of these companies. And it's coming out slowly, right? When I say these things, I don't mean it's going to be an immediate thing, right? Obviously, like, take a look at any narcissistic relationship or business relationship or friendship. Like, you got to bait the people in before you can show your true colors. And so WWE has to get their fans comfortable. They have to persuade them that what they're doing is for AAA's best interest, it's for TNA's best interest, it's for the best interest of the wrestling business. But in the reality, it's only best for WWE. And look, kudos to them. They figured out a way that they can manipulate the market. Story is coming out today by Wrestle Purist, stating, I'm sorry, this came on the radio show of Wrestle Votes. This tweet that I'm reading is from Wrestle Purist, but Wrestle Votes Radio posted this earlier, WWE is strongly considering redesigning AAA's logo to better reflect the company's new identity under the WWE umbrella while giving it a modern look. Possible to be revealed before the end of 2025. What did I say was going to happen to AAA? WWE wants it to become WWE's identity. It's no longer going to be called AAA at some point in time. Like, it wouldn't shock me. If realistically, like, I'm not trying to be snarky. I'm not trying to be like, oh, WWE so dumb. Like, I'm being legitimately serious when I say this. It would not surprise me if they decide 2026, AAA becomes NXT Mexico. And it's just, you start, any new hire goes to Mexico, and that's their, like, Young Lions program. Like, New Japan has the Young Lions. They have the dojo out in California where all the trainees get their work in, and they work some of the smaller shows to get experience, to get their name, to build up their hype, right? New Japan has the Young Lions dojo. NXT Mexico or AAA is going to be that equivalent. You're going to hire a bunch of non-experienced wrestlers, those that they don't want to, that don't already have some form of mainstream appeal, those that may not have been wrestlers before, that need to continue to build their craft. They'll throw into the Mexican scene. They'll let them work their craft in a smaller arena that's not NXT. And then once they have the American look, once they have the style down, then you get pushed up, you get pushed into NXT, and then maybe the main roster at some point in time. Or if you're an American and you already kind of know the American style, you'll get pushed into TNA at some point in time, and then pushed into the proper channels. That's the reality of the situation right now. And again, I'm not trying to be snarky. I'm not trying to be like this, AEW guy beefs with WWE. This is how, legitimately, like, just for a minute, take off the blinders and consider that this is what's going to happen, that the moves are in place, and that it's not going to happen tomorrow, but maybe, 6, 7, 8 months, a year or two down the line. This is the end goal, is to create the system. And well, what's your proof? Because they tried it before. They didn't anticipate that COVID was going to shut the world down, but they already had NXT UK. There were plans for, like, NXT India. There were plans for Japan. There were plans for Mexico. There were plans for other European countries that were already in the workings. This is public knowledge back then. See, and here's the issue, is I present this because I understand the concepts. I understand the beyond the scenes. I understand beyond what you see on the screen. I read into all of that, and I get called a weirdo, or I get called a mark, or I get called whatever the hell people want to call me, because they don't want to remove the blinders. And now AEW fans, to some extent, do the same thing. But let's talk about business. Like, it would make sense for WWE to brand everything the same way. It would make sense to turn it into NXT Mexico, because that is a name that is recognizable. That anybody knows what NXT is and knows it's a WWE thing. So it makes sense why they're doing it. But the fact that I even mentioned that it's a possibility that they're doing it, I get called a hater or some sort of, like, anti-WWE guy. But it makes sense. It's good business practice. I'm not saying it's necessarily wrong. I think the whole partnership thing is just a scam. I don't think they have any of these other companies' best interest in mind, but that's just my own skepticism. That's not to say that their business model is bad or good. It is to say that that's their business model. And I may not agree with it. And that is okay. So listen, like, I don't know everything. I don't have inside news. I don't have any of that. But what I do have is intuition. What I do have is common sense. What I do have is an understanding of the past history of what WWE used to do, and an understanding that Nick Khan is no different than Vince McMahon, and Triple H is no different than Vince McMahon, and they all have the same goal in mind. And TKO, all they care about is money. And so what's going to make them the most money? What's going to get them the best return on the investment? And the answer is brand it the same. I would expect Apple, if Apple like bought out some smaller tech company, would transition it either to literally just merge it into the Apple brand or something similar. If PlayStation, Sony, Interactive were to buy some smaller tech company or tech product, they would market it and brand it to the same logo and branding as their other items. If Pepsi or Coke bought some smaller, popular, like mom and pop soda, it would get the Pepsi or Coke branding to it. Like, that's just what business does when they purchase products, is they got to brand it to make people know that it's now their product. That's just business. That's good business. I'm not saying WWE is wrong for doing so. I'm just saying, look out if AAA magically becomes WWE or NXT Mexico at some point in time. Don't say I didn't warn you. And for some people, that's a fine thing. For me, being a fan of the historical side of wrestling, I think it's a shame that that's even a possibility, because AAA has such a historical moniker in pro wrestling. And the fact that the big bad wolf gets to dictate the branding of such a historical company, like that sets a dangerous precedent, in my opinion. All right, let's get into actually talking about some news that has been this week's monologue. All right, let's talk about some news. Again, I got to give a big shout out to our sponsors and affiliate partners. That's rss.com. If you're listening to the audio version, rss.com is how I upload the audio files and how you get the podcast distributed. If you were ever interested in podcasting, it's as easy as registering for an account, picking your subscription. If you want one podcast, it's like $9 or $10. If you want, if you want to manage a multitude of podcasts, depending on the amount, there are pricing tiers. Choose the right one for you. Use that link at in the description for rss.com and become a podcaster. Maybe you have a niche audience that you can talk to, and you can reach them using rss.com. Got to think WWE Shop. Micro Man merchandise has just been dropped. Talking about AAA. Micro Man, he used to be in MLW. I guess he's coming back to AAA. He got a shirt on the WWE Shop. If you love Micro Man, he's one of my favorite, comedy wrestlers. Use the link in the description and buy your Micro Man merch at the WWE Shop. I got to thank StubHub. Look, I've been scrolling StubHub for days, waiting for some ticket prices to drop. I don't know if it's going to happen as football season gets closer, but use the link for StubHub and help support the podcast there. And then always powering this podcast every single week is W Energy. Go to w.gg and use the code Beyond the Yard. Get 10% off. Again, at w.gg, use the code Beyond the Yard. That's BEYONDTHEYARD. Get 10% off of your order. I checked it earlier this week. The code still works, folks. So go ahead and save a little bit of money on your energy. It's an up-and-coming product with really good flavors, really unique flavors, really good partnerships with some of the other gaming community members. W.gg, code Beyond the Yard, 10% off. Let's talk about some news. We'll start with the WWE. And, you know, there's been a little bit of news here in the past, week or so on WWE side. The biggest story is Karrion Kross is now officially a free agent. He was on the Ariel Helwani show the other day. To me, this doesn't sound like a work. This sounds legitimate. I believe he's taken bookings, him and Scarlett. He went on the Ariel Helwani show, like I said, basically said WWE offered him a contract, didn't offer Scarlett a contract. The contract wasn't what Kross wanted. They weren't willing to budge, and so he didn't sign the contract. Basically, they gave him an ultimatum. You have 24 hours to sign this. If you don't sign it, we're rescinding the contract. And that's where they were. I think Karrion Kross, listen, he's not going to be a main, he's not going to be a guy that's going to carry your company for the next 5 or 10 years. But he is a good worker. He is a veteran. He has good ideas. He knows how to get himself over. He was a really big signing for WWE when he signed to the NXT brand several years back. He was fired once before, brought back by Triple H, and they just didn't do anything interesting with him. And it's kind of disappointing because he had such a big following in the indie scene prior to his WWE run as Killer Kross. He'll bring that moniker back, it sounds like. And I hope the best for him. I don't know if AEW would really consider going after him or Scarlett. I see him more as, to me, if I was Karrion Kross, I'm looking at what Matt Cardona has done, right? Matt Cardona has built an entire persona out of being the indie god, right? And he's very popular. And I'm sure if WWE offered him a good enough contract, he would consider coming back to WWE. But he's a very wanted man in the indie scene that allows him to have a pretty high rate, and people are willing to pay that rate. He's able to work multiple different companies, do his own schedule, do the things that he wants to do, and wrestle in companies that he wants to wrestle in. He can go to MLW one night and AEW the next. If I'm Karrion Kross, I'm looking at that model, and you realize, I'm not at an age where I'm going to be a top guy in any company. And so let's just travel the indies. Let's work all of these shows and then do my one-off appearances and some of the bigger independent companies, the Rev Pros, the New Japans, the TNAs, the MLWs, the GCWs, stuff like that, Prestige, and make a little bit of money, be able to set my own schedule, be my own character, determine my own gimmick, design my own merch. I'm in charge of my entire thing, and I think that's the best route. I don't know if him signing with TNA or WWE again, or even AEW is the best move for Kross. I really think if he could just not necessarily copy Cardona, but follow the pattern of Cardona and say, I'm just going to run the indies, and I'm going to be able to set my rate. And if people want to have Karrion Kross, they're going to have to pay what I want. And so that's what I think is best for Kross. Now, there are rumors going around that Naomi is going to be out for quite a while. And it's not really an injury, but perhaps an addition to the Fatu family. The family lineage is growing. There's another branch growing on the tree of the tribe of Roman Reigns. That he's the OTC, right? The original tribal chief. He's a TC1. But Naomi might be pregnant. It hasn't been confirmed nor denied, but that's the rumor behind the scenes. Most likely meaning that she's going to have to turn in the belt. And now WWE has to figure out, like, what's next for the championship. Who gets the belt? And I was thinking about this, like, and my main reaction is, let's have a little fun with it, right? Like, if I'm WWE, I'm saying let's have some fun and let's use this, because Naomi's going to be out for at least 9 months, but probably a year plus. Like, Becky Lynch was out for almost 2 years, I think, when she got pregnant and took care of her kid and all of that and getting ready, getting back into shape and all of that. Like, it took Becky some time to get back into shape. Naomi, I'm sure, will take, the same or maybe longer, depending on how long she wants to be out of action after the pregnancy. If that is the case, like, let's have fun. This doesn't have to be a long title reign. You can have fun with it to determine who the next champion is. And to me, let's do this as a way to test one of our over talents that maybe hasn't got a world title picture, a championship at that level. And I'm thinking like Chelsea Green. Like, she is over. And I don't watch a whole lot of WWE, but I know Chelsea Green is over. And I think she has the gimmick. She is the perfect person to, let's just say you run a tournament, and she wins it. She has the look. She has the appeal. She has the following that Chelsea Green, I think, could have a decent championship run with the main women's title. And then obviously it doesn't have to be a year-long thing. It could be just a couple months or however you want it to be. Because, like, my first person would be like Charlotte Flair would always be the most obvious answer, but she has the women's tag belts with Alexa Bliss, so I don't think she'd be in the picture. And I know people are calling for Rhea to have the belt back, but, like, Rhea's had it. Jade Cargill's not a championship material person at this point in her. I don't think she could carry that division. I think that's the reason they decided to have Tiffany beat her, is because they felt more comfortable with Tiffany than Jade being champion. Liv is hurt. Like, you really don't have anybody fresh. And who's fresher than Chelsea Green to run that belt? That's just my thought. Run a title tournament. Chelsea Green wins it. Let her have a short title reign. And see where it goes from there. All right. The last couple things are a little bit more serious. It's being reported that WWE is creating a pay-per-view to go head-to-head against All Out on September 20th. They're going to run that show in Indianapolis. They're not sure what the name of the pay-per-view will be, if it's going to be Bad Blood or maybe some other pay-per-view. They don't know, but it's going head-to-head against All Out. And they're going to put the main event, or the key marketing event, as John Cena versus Brock Lesnar. And here we go again. And then it also came out that NBC wants John Cena's final match to be on December 13th. That's a Saturday. They would do a Saturday night's main event. But WWE's considering saying, you know what, let's actually do it on the 27th. Well, why? Because that is the same night as AEW's World's End. And so I have to ask a question. And again, I'm not trying to be snarky or petty. What benefit does WWE get out of this? Because there is nobody in their damn mind that's an AEW fan that would willingly say, I'm not watching an AEW pay-per-view over a WWE show. Especially when Peacock is on demand. I can watch it literally after All Out or literally after World's End. Or I can watch it the next day or the day after. It's not like, and then it's like, it's included in my subscription to Peacock. So it's not as urgent for me to watch. And AEW pay-per-views always smack. They always slap. They're always the better show. You're not pulling eyes off of AEW pay-per-views. So what good does it do? That you might pull 15,000 pay-per-view buys away. You pull a couple $100,000 away from Tony Khan's revenue. But that TV deal is more like making them a lot more money. They're going to be profitable this year. You're not doing anything to hurt AEW. Like, to me, this is just bad business on WWE's end. And to me, it shows that they're legitimately scared. To me, it shows, all right, man, like, legit, the company's doing good numbers. And we're scared. We're legit terrified about what, like, if AEW continues the momentum, God forbid the max numbers come out. God forbid we get clarity on what demographic watches AEW on Max, HBO Max, rather than on cable. Rather, we see the total picture of viewership. God forbid that happens. Like, it makes me wonder, like, has WWE seen the internals? Have they seen the max numbers? I'm sure they have somebody inside Warner Bros. Like, John Cena used to host a show there, so I'm sure John Cena knows somebody. I'm sure they got a contact inside of Warner Bros. That they know can give the numbers under the table. So maybe WWE is seeing some of these. I don't know. I don't have proof. That's just, I'm spitting it out of the top of my head. So don't, take it with a grain of salt. But I wonder, like, does WWE see something we as fans can't see yet? Classified information that we're not supposed to know about? And it makes them scared? Like, we got to pull as many eyes away from AEW as possible. Like, they're legit competing. And then Meltzer puts out a statement earlier this morning stating essentially WWE is trying to do whatever it takes to get TNA on a big TV deal. In fact, I think John Alba then corroborates the story to say they're willing to put TNA on Wednesday nights head-to-head against Dynamite as a tactic to try and make sure that AEW's numbers don't look as appealing, so Warner doesn't offer them another TV deal. They're thinking, this is what I'm saying, what WWE's agenda isn't just a tomorrow thing. Going back to my previous segment, they're thinking years ahead of time. Their end goal is to ultimately make it so that AEW is not a company anymore. And the only people that do that go on offense so aggressively, so early, are people that know if they wait until the time is right, they're going to lose. They're desperate. They're trying to make really big moves right now to prevent AEW from succeeding in the future. But here's the thing. Again, AEW's fan base is a pretty loyal fan base. Who's going to turn off an AEW show to watch TNA? Especially when we know now that TNA is working hand in hand, almost as if WWE's pulling the strings with WWE. And there's already this contention between the main AEW base and WWE. It makes no sense why they would think going head-to-head would help them. You might pull a couple 100,000 viewers. You're not pulling anybody off of Max. If anything, somebody's going to have, TNA on their phone and AEW on the big screen. Like, there's multiple ways to watch multiple things. You're not, again, it's just, to me, it's bad business on the part of WWE. And they're making bad business moves because they know if they don't, send the Hail Mary now, the score will be so lopsided a year from now that there's no coming back. And it's not like WWE's losing. What I'm saying is
Their end goal is not to like beat AEW in the ratings, right? Like I don't think this is a ratings war. I don't see this as competition for ratings. I see this as competition for market share. Again, this is where, like, if you don't have a business background, you don't understand this. They're not looking to beat you in the ratings. They're not looking to beat AEW in the ratings. They're trying to eliminate AEW's position in the market for pro wrestling. They're trying to do everything they can to overtake that market share. And I'm going to be completely honest with you. It isn't going to work. This desperate move isn't going to work. In fact, I think it might backfire on them. Because the people that they're trying to pull, they see right through the bullshit. And they're able to use that common sense. And look, I'm not saying don't watch WWE. Like, if the product is what you want to watch it. If you like both AEW and WWE, more wrestling for you. I'm not a big WWE fan. People know that. And so it is what it is. And so at the end of the day, I don't know if this is good business. And to immediately dismiss what Dave Meltzer said as some form of propaganda just because it goes against your narrative, dare I say it? That sounds like cult-like mentality. Like a cult-like mentality would be, hey, the opponent, someone that we deem to be part of the opponent's side said something negative about us. We have to put out a defensive attack to say that what they said is wrong immediately without checking to confirm the validity of the statement. It's automatically propaganda. That's cult-like material. Let me know what you think in the comments. Like, am I making sense? There's the fact that WWE is trying so hard not to beat AEW in the ratings, but to beat AEW in the market share of the industry, and they see where the direction is going. So they're blitzing right now. They're sending all of their soldiers. What happens if AEW beats the blitz? You have no one to defend the rest of the field. This has a bigger chance of backfiring and hurting WWE in the long run than it does hurting AEW. And speaking of AEW, let's end the show by talking about some AEW news. But before that, I asked a question in the Discord, and I asked a question on social media, Instagram, X, the Discord server, Blue Sky. I asked the question, give me some topics that you would want us to talk about on this podcast. And I got one I'm saving for Saturday. It's from the Discord server, and it's not really wrestling related. And the Saturday show, I can be a little bit more relaxed about the wrestling stuff. That's the purpose of the Saturday show. But this Thursday show, I kind of like to keep it wrestling related. And so I got one from a group chat with me and Cody and one of our close friends that likes wrestling as well. And he asked a pretty big question. And I thought I would bring it up for a little bit. The question is, what are some stars you feel Triple H has brought down since taking over WWE? Well, number one is Karrion Kross. And I've already explained, like, Karrion Kross is, a big letdown. Like, he had such high momentum coming into the company. They fired him during the pandemic. Triple H brings him back. He got himself over organically, and they didn't do anything with it, and now he's gone. So I think that's a letdown. I think the idea, like, this is more of a Vince thing than a Triple H thing, but Adam Cole should have been a main star success story, and he wasn't. He was the biggest thing in NXT. Like, I think Carmelo Hayes has been a disappointment on the main roster. Like, he's tag teaming with The Miz. That's like an ultimate death sentence right now in WWE. If you're a tag team partner of The Miz, you have no future in the company. John Morrison did it, got fired. The Miz was connected to Austin Theory and Grayson Waller for a period of time. They've done nothing of value in a while, right? Austin Theory, I think, is a big letdown. Again, he was a Vince guy, so I think that's more to say, like, Vince would have pushed him to the moon. But yeah, Carmelo, basically anybody that they've brought up from NXT over the past couple years, with a few exceptions, like Braun Breaker, obviously they're pushing. Lyra Valkyria, for whatever reason, they're pushing Lyra Valkyria. I don't understand. She doesn't have it. But yeah, no, to me, some stars that I feel like that Triple H hasn't excelled at. I think Adam Cole, that's more of a Vince thing. Karrion Kross, Austin Theory. I think Grayson Waller, even, he was pretty over in NXT. The Creed brothers were freaking fantastic. And NXT, and now they're lacking with Chad Gable. Now Chad Gable's hurt, so they're not really doing anything. But I loved them when they were part of Diamond Mine. They're doing nothing now on the main roster. To me, Triple H is playing the call of, we're going to bring back the trivial viral appeal of people like John Cena and The Rock and Brock Lesnar, Undertaker, Stone Cold will show up drunk once in a while, over pushing some of the younger guys and gals that can really make a big deal. Like, even what they're doing with Roxanne Perez, like, she's one of the most talented women in all of the sport. And she's mixed in with this love story with Dom. And obviously they can't push it because Liv got hurt. And so, like, she should be a singles wrestler challenging for the main title. Roxanne Perez is the future of WWE's women's division. And they're not doing anything with it right now. But let's end the show. So we'll do that weekly now. I'll put out just a topic. Give me some topics every Wednesday and Saturday, or Thursday and Saturday. We'll go over one right before we close the show. We'll close the show here with some AEW news. We'll end on a good note. AEW has re-signed several wrestlers. The first of note actually happened last year in 2024, but was just confirmed earlier today. Hook has signed a multi-year contract extension with AEW. So he's here to stay for the long term. Obviously, his return vignette showed on Dynamite last night. Matt Menard, Daddy Magic, has re-signed a multi-year deal. And then Kota Ibushi also announced that he signed a 2-year extension with AEW. So AEW is doing this thing where they're not focused on trying to bring in outsider talent. They're looking to keep the talent indoors that they already have and signing them and using them to the best of their ability. I want to bring notice to something Mercedes Moné said earlier in the week that I thought it's kind of coming along the same principle as being in AEW. She said earlier this week on the MVP and Dwayne Swayze Marking Out podcast, she said, when asked about advice to AEW wrestlers that may not be passionate enough or want to be the best, she says, if you don't love it, if you don't want to even try or grow or try to be the best, then get the fuck out. Can I say that? Get out, get the fuck out, because there's so much talent that want the opportunity in that spot. So give it to them. Look, I agree with Mercedes Moné. If there's people in AEW that don't want to strive to be the best version of themselves in AEW, I think they're free to leave. Like, AEW is there to really live by the moniker, we're the best wrestler. I've changed the moniker a little bit, though. Just as a quick aside here. AEW is we're the best wrestler, but it isn't that Disney on Ice shit. Anyways, let's keep going. Let's talk about a little bit about AEW Dynamite last night. This was a show that progressed a lot of stories leading into Forbidden Door next week. Tune in next week for the Forbidden Door prediction show. Cody should be back next week, so we'll do that prediction show. Next Sunday, Forbidden Door live from London, England. It'll be an afternoon show in the States. That's a good thing with it being a Sunday show. We don't have to stay up super late and have to go to work the next morning. But anyways, like, this was a really good show. It started off with Hangman and MJF, and MJF's temper got the best of him. Adam Page was able to goad him into cashing in his contract. MJF fights Page for the AEW title next weekend. Let's just take a look at what a year does for those contracts. AEW tried to be WWE when they announced that they had this Dynamite Casino Gauntlet contract, and Christian Cage won the first one, and they tried to be WWE and fake us out with the contract. And when is he going to cash it in? And it ended up like they couldn't figure out the right time, right? And so Christian Cage just ended up cashing it in some bullshit manner, and it really was really confusing because he took the pin, and it made him look really dumb. It really did. Turn around to a year later, MJF wins it, Athena wins them, and immediately the next pay-per-view, they're both cashing him in. I think they realized, like, this is just going to be a fun way to make someone an automatic number one contender in a way that we can progress storyline around a contract. Like, I have a contract for a match, and here's what we're going to do with it. I love it. I love both of those matches. Will Ospreay comes back, and after Moxley's match, interferes. Darby Allin gets thrown around like a rag doll a little bit, and it was just a good segment. Will Ospreay comes back, and even though he has serious neck injuries, wants a lights-out steel cage match. Of course he does. It's Will Ospreay. That's what makes him one of the best in the world. We come to find out later in the night, Ospreay, Darby Allin, Hiroshi Tanahashi, Kenny Omega, and Kota Ibushi will be fighting Gabe Kidd, Jon Moxley, Claudio, and the Young Bucks in a lights-out steel cage match. It's going to be a fun match. The stories were just popping. I'm still waiting to see if the women get a blood and guts match. That's been the rumor, is all of these mid-card women are going to have a blood and guts match. Obviously, we get Mercedes Moné defending the TBS belt against Alex Windsor, a member of CMLL, which they announced earlier this morning. Persephone will be their member, and then a member of Stardom, which I'm sure will announce shortly. I'm almost 100% certain it would be Shiori. She's already made a couple appearances in AEW here recently, so I'm sure she'll be the Stardom member, but a four-way for the TBS belt. this pay-per-view is just great. We get the return of Edge and Christian tag teaming. They go instantly to a tag team match next week against Kip Sabian and Nick Wayne. And all of the anti-AEW, pro-WWE fans are shitting all over this. And I get it. This was a kind of a weird way to have the reunion. But it makes a lot of sense. You don't want their first match on their reunion to have no build. There's going to be a build to this. And again, you have to have a little bit of common sense. AEW knows people can see the future. That they can see the story, right? Just use a little bit of common sense. Christian Cage and Adam Copeland are going to beat Nick Wayne and Kip Sabian in England. And then they're going to want to fight in Toronto, Canada against FTR. Well, guess what? FTR more than likely will fight the Hurt Syndicate in England and win the AEW tag team titles. Meaning we're going to have a 4-week period of time building up between FTR versus Edge and Christian for the AEW tag team championships. What a great story to tell. You can't have this reunion. Christian Cage has to finish his segment, finish his story with Nick Wayne. This is a great way to do it. Integrate Copeland. They get a tag team match together. They start to build chemistry. Christian wasn't 100% receptive to the hug last night with Copeland. Over the period of time, they'll realize, hey, here we go. We have the momentum. Remember the early 2000s, late 90s when we tag teamed? Like, that's the story. I already know the story, but I'm excited to see how it plays out. And so I don't understand why everyone's so upset and up in arms about this story. This has always been the positioning of the story, was to get them one more tag team run. It's happening at this moment. It's a good moment. And there we go. And so I have to leave with this question. This may be the best Forbidden Door card of all time. And I think there's a reason behind it. Next year, All In is back in London. And if you can tell London, this is what we give you on your pay-per-views, we give you the best card ever, the people that couldn't go to Forbidden Door are going to be the first in line to buy tickets for All In. My guess is that they're going to try and sell more tickets than they did when they were in London the last time for All In. They may try and break the 81,000. I would not be surprised if they try and pack that stadium fuller than they did before. And I think they can do it. And so, yeah, I think this might be the best Forbidden Door card. I don't think the card's finished being built. And we had the negative here of this pay-per-view with New Japan being during the G1 Climax tournament. And so a lot of the wrestlers who competed in that tournament aren't obviously going to be available unless you're Zack Sabre Jr. and you're just a maniac and want to wrestle, 34 matches in a 3-week span. Like, a lot of them are going to not be available because they had just wrestled several matches over 2 or 3 weeks. And so for what they got, like Gabe Kidd dropped out of the tournament to be part of Forbidden Door. I'm excited to see what happens. Again, we'll get more in depth with the Forbidden Door card next week on the prediction show. But like, Dynamite was good. And the numbers came out earlier today. They lost a couple thousand. I think it went from 711 on average to 690 on average. But they were number one on cable. And can I be honest with you for a minute, though? I want to see the max numbers more than ever. Not to be like, I told you, but I just want to see what the dynamic is. Like, are the old folks watching on cable and then the young people, like, are watching on Max? Like, I watch on Max, so my number doesn't count in the rating. I watch on Max. Like, and a lot of people I know watch on Max. In fact, if you watch AEW, post in the comments. Let me know. Do you watch on Max or on cable? Or do you pirate the show? Don't tell me that. I don't want to know that. But like, to me, I just want to know, like, how many people are watching on Max? Because my assumption kind of is some of the people we lost on the cable numbers last week may have decided, you know what, I'm going to watch on Max this week. I want to see what this is. I want to see how it is. What is it any different than cable? Maybe you got some new WWE fan that watched on TNT or TBS for the first time last week, and they realized, you know what, I have Max. I have HBO Max. I can watch there. I don't need cable. I don't have to go through this. I can binge watch Lord of the Rings for the 87th time, and then at 8 o'clock go right to Dynamite. On the same app. I don't need to open a different app or a different source or whatever. So I just wonder, like, what was the difference between last week and this week in the Max number? I call it a win because they were number one on cable. So big night. I think AEW is picking up speed, and obviously WWE feels the same way because they're trying everything they can to sabotage AEW. And I always get told by all of these so-called casual wrestling fans, well, you have to have WWE be the villain so that AEW can be the savior. And I don't have to have shit. Maybe the reality is WWE is just the villain and AEW is just the savior. We'll see y'all next week. Thank you for going Beyond the Jungle. Beyond the